about the most powerful forces in the world. Nations. Big tech giants. Now consider this. What if a sugary drink held a truly shocking level of global influence?
It does sound a bit outlandish at first, doesn't it? But honestly, when you dig into the story of this particular company, the pervasiveness of its reach,
Yeah.
it's genuinely startling.
Exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into a company whose name is, basically synonymous with beverage, Coca-Cola. You shared a really fascinating stack of info with us, articles, analyses, even their investor reports. And our mission today is to unpack the truly surprising story behind its century-long reign.
And reign really feels like the right word. We're not just looking at a successful business here. We're examining a commercial and cultural force. Its footprint is, frankly, astonishing.
Yeah, we're going way beyond just the taste, exploring the core strategies that haven't just made it a global icon, but have built this market presence that, honestly, when you grasp the totality of it, it might actually shock you. Okay, let's unpack this. And maybe the first surprise is just how many drinks they sell that aren't called Coke.
That's absolutely right. You hear Coca-Cola, you think of the classic drink. But what's fascinating and maybe a bit shocking in its sheer scope is the breadth of their brand portfolio. It spans, numerous beverage categories.
Like what?
Everything from juices and teas to bottled water, even energy drinks. Loads of stuff.
It's almost like they've deliberately set out to grab a piece of, nearly every kind of drink people might buy. What's the strategic thinking behind building up such a massive collection of brands?
It's actually very clever. By catering to all these diverse tastes across different types of beverages, they seriously cut down the risk. They're not just banking on one category.
So people suddenly stop drinking fizzy drinks.
Exactly. If tastes shift away from sodas, for instance, they've got this whole arsenal of other options ready to go. It's kind of like a diversified investment portfolio, but with drinks instead of stocks.
That makes a lot of sense. Spreading the bets, hedging against market changes. Are there downsides, though? Managing all that must be complex.
Oh, definitely. Managing such a diverse lineup brings logistical challenges, branding headaches.
Yeah.
You have to allocate resources carefully, make sure brands aren't, eating into each other's sales.
Right.
But Coca-Cola seems to handle this pretty well. They keep a consistent global image for the core stuff, but then they empower their local bottling partners. And get this, there are around 200 of them.
200 bottlers?
Yeah, operating in over 200 countries and territories. And these partners adapt everything, the product mix, the marketing, even pricing, to fit exactly what works in their local market.
Wow. So it's this huge global framework, but with a surprising amount of local wiggle room built in. That's actually quite a nuanced approach for such a giant company. Okay, let's shift gears. Let's talk about something they're arguably most famous for, where they've shown, frankly, shocking levels of consistent impact. Their marketing.
Absolutely. Marketing excellence has been, completely central to their success and dominance. And what's fascinating here is how they've evolved. They've very skillfully moved from mainly TV ads.
Yeah, I remember those classic TV spots.
Right. To now being very much digital first. A huge chunk of their media budget now goes to online platforms, reaching people where they actually spend their time today.
But it's not just where they advertise, it's the message, isn't it? I always associate Coke ads with those, universal feelings, happiness, people sharing moments.
Precisely. They consistently hit these fundamental emotional chords: happiness, togetherness, sharing. It builds this brand loyalty that goes way beyond just the taste or function of the drink. The goal, really, is to forge a deep emotional connection with you, the consumer, associating their drinks with positive life experiences.
It feels like they're not even primarily selling a drink. They're selling a feeling, almost an ideal. And the truly shocking part is how well they pull this off everywhere, across completely different cultures, languages. How do they manage that kind of universal emotional connection?
It's really a testament to how deeply they understand basic human desires and their skill in crafting these brand stories that just resonate universally, but are still flexible enough to feel culturally relevant locally. It's a delicate balance, but yeah, they've mastered it to an astonishing degree.
Okay, so they've got this incredibly wide range of brands, and the almost universally effective marketing is nailed down. But, in today's world, just sticking with the old classics, that can't be enough, right? Which brings us to maybe surprisingly significant diversification and innovation at Coke.
Exactly right. They saw the shifts happening, people wanting different things, healthier options, so they strategically repositioned themselves. They call it being a total beverage company.
Total beverage company sounds ambitious.
It is. It signals this major move beyond just fizzy drinks into, well, a huge array of other things. Healthier choices, low-sugar versions, bottled water, juices, teas, coffee, sports drinks, energy drinks, the whole lot.
So even if I'm deliberately picking up something I think is healthier, there's a decent chance it's still a Coca-Cola owned brand. And it sounds like innovation for them is more than just, a new flavor now and then.
Absolutely. Their whole innovation approach is about making bigger and bolder bets. That means not just new drinks, but also big steps in packaging tech, even designing new dispensing equipment. It's all about the consumer experience.
And they don't just invent everything themselves, do they? I remember reading about them buying up other drink companies.
Correct. Strategic mergers and acquisitions are a big part of their growth playbook. They often buy regional brands to get into new markets or categories quickly, and they get access to that company's distribution network too.
Smart.
And crucially, they always remember, tastes are different everywhere. So they actively localize the product lineup to match specific regional preferences, different income levels.
That theme, again, global scale, but with this incredibly local focus, it seems absolutely key to their shocking level of success. Now, one of the really unique things about Coke's operation is their franchise system. Can you break down how that works and why it's been such a powerhouse for them?
Yeah, this is genuinely fascinating, maybe even revolutionary in terms of business models. Instead of owning and running all the bottling plants and delivery trucks themselves, Coca-Cola partners with around 200 independent local bottling companies all over the world.
Independent companies.
That's right. It's an asset-light model. It lets the main Coca-Cola company focus on what it does best, building the brand, developing the drink concentrates, setting the overall strategy. Meanwhile, they leverage the priceless local know-how and existing infrastructure of these partners for the really crucial bits, actually making, packaging, and distributing the final drinks.
So these local bottlers know their markets inside out, probably better than a big central HQ ever could.
Precisely. They know the local tastes, the culture, the language, the business practices, the, often complex delivery routes, everything specific to their area. The structure lets Coca-Cola expand incredibly fast globally without needing massive amounts of its own capital in every single market. It's remarkably scalable and adaptable too.
Sounds like a win-win. Coke focuses on the brand, the partners handle the local execution, but how do they keep it all consistent? Maintain standards across this huge network of separate businesses?
It really relies on a strong collaborative relationship. They operate as this networked global organization. You've got global category leaders guiding marketing and innovation, but also this critical group called platform services.
Platform services?
Yeah, they provide the essential data, the analytics, share best practices, basically helping the whole network run efficiently, cut down redundant efforts, while still letting the local bottlers be agile enough to react to their own market conditions. And here's a stat that just blows my mind, really underscores the power of this model.
Go on.
It enables their brands to be sold across more than 20 different channels and an estimated 31 million customer outlets worldwide.
Wait, 31 million outlets? That number is, it's absolutely staggering. It's almost impossible to really picture that level of ubiquity.
It really is. Just think about it, everywhere.
Okay, so all this incredible success, this global reach, it must translate into some seriously impressive financial numbers.
Oh, it certainly does. For fiscal year 2024, Coca-Cola reported net revenues of $47.1 billion, and they had organic revenue growth of 12%.
12% organic growth. That's strong.
Very strong. It shows the underlying health of their existing brands, setting aside acquisitions and things like that. Plus, their operations generated a huge amount of cash, $2.8 billion in that same period. Shows real financial muscle.
Those kinds of figures.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really do make your head spin when you consider the scale. And how do investors generally feel about the company, its prospects?
Investor confidence in Coke tends to stay pretty high. Consistent performance, that powerful global brand, it counts for a lot. Their market capitalization right now is around $314 billion, give or take, as of April 2025. That's the total value the market puts on the company.
$314 billion.
Wow. And while stock prices always go up and down, the long-term trend for Coke has been generally upward. Plus, and this is a big deal for many investors, they're a dividend king.
Dividend king, what's that mean?
It means they've increased their annual dividend payout to shareholders for over 60 years in a row. 6 decades.
60 years of increases. That's incredible. Talk about stability.
It's a massive signal of financial health. and commitment to returning value to shareholders.
But is the stock seen as a great buy right now? I noticed in the materials you shared, analysts seem to have slightly different takes.
That's a good point. Yeah, analysts do differ on the current valuation. Morningstar, for instance, they seem to think the stock is pretty fairly valued right now based on their forecasts. But then you look at stockinvest.us, and their analysis suggests a much higher intrinsic value.
Intrinsic value, like what the company's really worth underneath.
Exactly. They think the underlying value might be significantly more than the current market price suggests. So you see this difference of opinion, which just highlights how complex stock valuation is. Different analysts use different models, focus on different factors.
It's a good reminder, isn't it? Even for a company that seems as dominant as Coca-Cola, there's always debate in the financial world. Okay, so let's try and pull these threads together. What are the absolute core things that have allowed Coke to not just get to this dominant position, but to stay there for so long?
Well, it's definitely a mix of things, but that huge global franchise network is just fundamental. It gives them the scale, the cost efficiency to achieve that ubiquity we talked about being everywhere. And that sheer presence is a massive barrier for anyone trying to compete.
Hard to muscle in when Coke is already on every shelf.
Precisely. Then there's what they call their top-line flywheel. It's a good way to think about how their strategies connect. It starts with powerful marketing driven by really understanding consumers. That drives demand, which supports ongoing investment in innovation and not just flavors, but packaging equipment, everything.
Okay.
Then they use sophisticated revenue growth management, basically smart ways to manage pricing, the mix of products people buy, promotions to boost revenue and profit. And finally, all that is tightly linked with how their bottlers execute, actually getting the products onto those 1 million shelves. It creates this powerful loop, a virtuous cycle, that's incredibly hard for competitors to break into.
And those really personal campaigns, like share a Coke with people's names on the bottles, they must have helped strengthen that consumer connection too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Massively successful. And we shouldn't forget the strategic acquisitions either, buying other companies to jump into new growing drink categories quickly. But underpinning it all, really, is that franchise system. It's been evolving for over 100 years, allowing both that massive global reach and deep local market penetration. It's this powerful blend, a consistent global brand people recognize everywhere, combined with highly localized marketing and distribution. That's the secret sauce, really.
It really does sound like they've built this almost unshakable fortress in the global drinks market. But of course, no one operates totally alone. Who are their main rivals? Who's trying to chip away at that fortress?
Oh, it's definitely a fiercely competitive space. Their biggest rival globally is PepsiCo, of course.
Yeah.
Strong number 2, and notably more diversified because they also have that huge snack food business, Frito-Lay.
Right, chips and soda.
Then you have Keurig Dr. Pepper, another major player with a really broad range of drinks across lots of categories. And in the energy drink space, which is booming, Monster Beverage is a dominant force.
We all remember the Cola Wars from back in the day, Coke versus Pepsi. Is that still the main battleground?
The Cola Wars definitely have a long history and still drive a lot of competition, especially in marketing and promotions. Coke has generally held the edge in global fizzy drink market share, but PepsiCo snacks give them a bigger overall revenue base.
Interesting.
But the competition now is much broader than just cola. Coke faces serious pressure from companies in bottled water, juices, ready-to-drink coffees and teas. That's really why they push towards becoming that total beverage company. They have to compete effectively across all these segments because that's where consumers are going, especially with the growing focus on health and wellness.
Makes perfect sense. They couldn't just sit back and rely on the classic sodas. So with all these competitors pushing from different angles, what are the absolute pillars holding up Coke's global leadership? What keeps them on top?
I'd point to a few key things. First, that incredibly effective branding. It's simple, timeless, it just works across cultures. That red and white logo, the unique bottle shape, instantly recognizable everywhere.
That's iconic.
Second, that massive, efficient global distribution network, powered by the franchise model. It gives them unmatched access to markets in, over 200 countries? Third, their whole think global, act local marketing approach, keeping the core brand consistent, but tweaking the message for local cultures. And finally, actively localizing the products themselves, adapting flavors, pack sizes, whatever, for different local tastes and income levels. That's critical.
It really is this global giant that somehow feels local too. Now, how does a company this huge even figure out what billions of different people around the world want to drink? Their tastes must be constantly changing.
They use really sophisticated market segmentation, looking at everything geography, demographics, psychographics, which is like lifestyles and values, and behavior. Well, maybe they started broader. Now there's a huge emphasis on localization, making things culturally relevant.
So not just one size fits all.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
They offer this vast, constantly changing variety of brands, flavors, packaging, trying to meet this incredibly diverse range of needs. And maybe most importantly, they've positioned that core Coca-Cola brand as this symbol of happiness, connection, appealing to really basic emotional values that work pretty much everywhere.
So it's way more than just a thirst quencher. It's about hitting that emotional note, which leads us nicely to the power of the brand itself. What makes the Coca-Cola brand so incredibly strong?
Well, they have a clear brand purpose: to refresh the world, make a difference. That guides a lot of what they do now, especially around things like sustainability, social impact, areas that are increasingly important.
Yeah.
Then you have the unique differentiators. The secret formulas, obviously, that iconic packaging we mentioned, decades of really memorable ads. It all adds up to incredible global recognition. Their core strengths: market power, that diverse portfolio, global presence, amazing distribution, brand awareness through the roof, slick marketing, customer loyalty. It all creates this massive competitive advantage. And crucially, they've managed to keep the core brand feeling timeless while still adapting products and marketing to stay relevant for new generations.
That balance again. Consistency and adaptation. It seems to be the recurring theme. Looking back at their long history, what are some of the moments or shifts that were truly pivotal? Things that really shaped the company we see now?
Well, the start and evolution of that franchise system back in 1899, that was absolutely fundamental. It set the stage for the global expansion. Then, maybe the most shocking event really showing the power of brand loyalty was New Coke in 1985.
Ah, yes, the infamous New Coke.
Exactly. They thought market share was slipping, so they changed the formula of classic Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
The backlash from the public was unbelievable. Immediate, intense. People were furious.
They really had an emotional connection to the taste.
Totally. People demanded the original back so loudly that the company eventually had to give in and reintroduced it as Coca-Cola Classic. It was a huge marketing blunder, obviously, but it accidentally proved just how iconic and culturally embedded the original really was.
That is an almost unbelievable story. A giant corporation forced to backtrack by sheer consumer power. It really shows the depth of feeling people had for that drink.
It really does. And one more, maybe their experience in India. It shows their adaptability. They first went in back in 1950, had to pull out in 77 because of regulations, then went back in successfully in 1993 after the economy opened up. It shows their resilience and determination to be in key markets, even when it's tough.
So we've covered a massive amount of ground here. As we start to wrap this up, what stand out to you as the most genuinely shocking takeaways from digging into Coca-Cola's story?
I think, honestly, the sheer, almost mind-boggling scale of it all, those 31 million points of sale, the pervasiveness is just shocking. Also, the depth of that emotional connection they've built, turning a simple fizzy drink into this global symbol of happiness and togetherness. That's remarkable, maybe even a little unsettling when you think about its influence.
Yeah.
Then there's how they keep adapting, constantly changing with consumer tastes, market shifts, yet somehow keeping that core identity intact. That agility is surprising for a company that size. And finally, just their resilience over more than a century, surviving challenges, even bouncing back from a massive mistake like New Coke. It really speaks to their incredible market power.
Yeah, reflecting on all that, the sheer depth and breadth of Coca-Cola's influence globally, it really makes you think, doesn't it? What does it actually mean for one single brand to be so deeply woven into global culture, global commerce? And you have to wonder, what surprising corners of our lives does its influence touch that we maybe don't even realize? It's definitely a powerful thing to chew on.
Absolutely. And this conversation, this deep dive, it's really scratched the surface. It's such a complex global story. I'd really encourage listeners to go back to those sources you shared, maybe dig even deeper into the history of the franchise model, or think about the long-term impact of their marketing on culture worldwide. There are definitely many more layers to explore.